my sermon this morning may be off-putting or even triggering to some of us. Indeed, I'm nervous to give it on the holiest day of the year. But in reflecting on why I'm hesitant, I wonder if I'm internalizing some outsider's idea of what's appropriate for a female rabbi to discuss, worrying too much about what people may want to hear and not what our community needs to share aloud. In this true spirit of Yom Kippur, I believe the job of Jewish leaders is to call out to'avot, the communal shortcomings of our people, not for the purposes of punishment or shame, but rather for teshuvah, a change in our culture that we so desperately need, how we think of, speak of, and treat women in our world. By now, we're all familiar with the women of the Me Too movement, the silence breakers who spoke out about sexual harassment and assault, from teens to professionals, housekeepers to movie stars. Those who first shared their stories encouraged others. Between October 15th and 16th of this past year, over 12 million posts with the hashtag #MeToo appeared on social media within 24 hours. And while it may appear this movement had sprung up overnight, it's actually been simmering for decades, centuries, dating all the way back to Torah. The many writers of our sacred stories, presumably all men, devote little time to female perspectives. When women appear in Bible, we're often mute or nameless, pawns in men's games of war and violence. Our reactions go unrecorded, our emotions never described. And while not all of these stories are of sexual abuse, sadly many are. We start in Genesis with the silencing of Dinah, the only daughter of Jacob. As Dinah goes out to visit the local women, the Hivite prince Shechem sees her, takes her by force, falls in love with her, and wants to marry her in that order. When Shechem's father tries to arrange a marriage between Dinah and Shechem, Jacob's sons seek revenge. They plunder the city, killing all the Hivite men, including Shechem and his father. They take Dinah from Shechem's house, and she is never heard from again. In this narrative, we see a woman with no agency, but more importantly, no voice. She becomes an alien in a foreign household, lacking a negotiated marriage. As her brothers rage against her treatment, they do not consider that for Dinah, there is no acceptable place for her now in Israelite society. As told, the concern in this story is not Dinah's fate, but rather the political relationship between Israel and other tribes. As activist and comedian Hannah Gadsby's noted, we care more about reputation than humanity. We meet another victim of a man's desire in the book of Samuel. Tamar, a young royal princess, lives with abundant privilege yet little power. Her ailing half-brother Amnon summons Tamar to bring food to his room, and dutifully she goes, unaware that he's schemed to get her alone. In this narrative, even though we hear a woman's voice, it's ignored. When Amnon crudely propositions Tamar, she responds with an emphatic no. No, my brother, do not force me. For such a thing is not done in Israel. Do not do anything so vile. In 3 different ways, she tries to reject Amnon's advances, but the prince ignores Tamar's pleas and overpowers her, hurting the one he was charged to protect. In these 2 narratives from Tanakh, we meet women bound to the circumstances set for them by the men in their lives. What happens to Dinah, Tamar, or others, named and unnamed, in the aftermath of their ordeals? We never know. Just as we may never hear from women and girls who have been victims of violence and silence. Dr. Ellen Umansky, professor of Judaic Studies, writes, if we are to attempt to create a non-patriarchal, non-androcentric Judaism, a Judaism in which the experiences of both men and women are seen as central, we Jewish women need to reclaim our voices. In doing so, we need to imagine what our foremothers like Dina might have said if only they had spoken. Tragically, these texts of terror, as named by Christian scholar Emily Scott, may be more resonant than others when it comes to the heartbreaking violence and silence of women. The Me Too's of the Bible reflect the culture of silence at work in our communities. But now, we are finally recognizing that behaviors once considered acceptable between men and women actually carry real casualties and cause long-term suffering. This is not a sermon to tell good men they're not good. This is about hearing women's voices independent of men and truly listening when what we have to say isn't easy to hear. And sometimes when it's difficult, we can turn to comedy to transmit truths. On Saturday Night Live this past season, parody song lyrics expose realities of how females are asked to act in this world. While the women of the cast sarcastically bemoaned that House of Cards is ruined for us all due to the behavior of its leading actor, they earnestly disclosed experiences that are also ruined for women on a daily basis. Parking and walking and Uber and ponytails, bathrobes and nighttime and drinking and hotels and vans. Nothing good seems to ever happen in a van. I wish I could say that these examples don't resonate, but I believe they do with every woman here. So I want to be a silence breaker too. I've been fortunate to have positive and nurturing male mentors, especially you, Rabbi Dennis, thank you. But as a female in a male-dominated field, my colleagues and I have experienced the full range of microaggressions to abuse that women in the rabbinate receive. We field conversations over and over again about the commonality of women in the rabbinate when it's been 46 years. We're called by our first names when our male counterparts receive the title of rabbi, or it's assumed we're assistants to the male senior rabbi instead of being rabbis ourselves. We receive comments about clothing and our weight, even if they're compliments, or sometimes creepy sentiments like, if my rabbi looked like you, I wouldn't have dropped out of Hebrew school. And while I can only describe the world I know about most, I'm certain that the female lawyers, bankers, doctors, principals, coders, police officers, and CEOs in this congregation find parallels in your own fields. Have you been referred to as girls, sweethearts, or honeys, or other feminine diminutives inappropriate for a professional? Have you been turned down for a job or a promotion because of fears you may become pregnant or need to care for family members? Do you earn less than male colleagues for the same position in accordance with national statistics? Have you been taken advantage of or preyed upon by a man with more power? Female rabbis too. And we get advice to protect ourselves in various ways. Leave your door open in one-to-one meetings. Don't visit a congregant's house alone. Will these unfortunately necessary practices protect congregants and clergy members of all genders from harm? I await the day when we will robustly address the roots of abuse instead of taking defensive steps to protect ourselves. Addressing these potentially uncomfortable interactions is crucial because it prevents women from having to be the ones who say no or don't or stop, who have to spend extra emotional energy defending our personal space and autonomy. Because in real time with real people, in real life, saying no isn't that easy. we're all socialized to behave in certain ways based on our gender identities. And what's even more complicated is these gender identities come with long-held biases against women. In an exercise from Harvard Business School, MBA students were given a case study about two real-life entrepreneurs. The case described how each person became a successful venture capitalist by using their personality traits and social skills. The students were then asked to assess the positive and negative qualities to determine who they'd want to work for. The descriptions were equal, except one candidate was Heidi Rosen and the other was Howard Rosen. The business school students saw Heidi as selfish, aggressive, and not the type of person you'd want to work with. Women in leadership of all areas are told to be trailblazers, break glass ceilings, gain power and success, but not too much. We're left with the bias that women who break the norms are also unlikable. And to counteract these prejudices, we're expected to be amiable, polite, dress attractively, and make sure others are happy, even if it makes us uncomfortable. I ask, as a society, how can we overcome these outdated notions? I believe that sharing our experiences and feelings aloud as a teaching tool is a place to start. In my work as a rabbi, I've witnessed the ways hearts can open when someone tells a story. I believe empathy will create a different vision for femininity and masculinity, rooted in love instead of dominance. The Jewish community that I truly envision is one where everyone is respected for the qualities we bring, where everyone feels safe and welcome, where everyone's voice matters. The Me Too movement has raised just as many questions and challenges for men as for women. It's helped us all look at expired, rigid notions of masculinity and reject those ideas too. Our community is filled with kind and loving boys and men who want more opportunities to feel vulnerable, to share emotions and love emphatically. Each of us here is holding outrage, confusion, and a passionate desire to create change. So we each need to reflect on how our behaviors and words can perpetuate a culture that pressures men to hold power while subjugating women. Whether it's the television and movies we watch, to the photos and videos we consume and share, to the words we speak, each of us makes a series of seemingly innocuous daily decisions that can define and determine what the accepted culture is. We each must sit with our own discomfort instead of passing unhealthy ideas about gender and power to a new generation. We can rewrite the stories of men and women. As Jews committed to gender equality, we must also return to our sacred texts as a way to make change. If we read between the lines of the Bible, we can detect the narratives of women deleted by uninterested editors or just left untold. When we preach and teach the stories of biblical women and find there's no voice, we can start with the simple question, how do you think she felt? It's a question that some teachers have never considered, but many women have. We've challenged ourselves to rediscover our voices in sacred text. And when women speak out, when women do that process, we add to Torah through Midrash, like The Red Tent by Anita Diamant, who reclaimed Dina's victimhood as a love story. When women speak out, we claim feminist readings of text. Dr. Andrea Weiss, editor of the Women's Torah Commentary, has used metaphor to better understand Tamar's use of her own sexual power. When women speak out, we add depth to liturgy. Songwriter Debbie Friedman, Zikronan Livracha, added the names of our matriarchs to prayer and honored women's voices in song, expanding the way women relate with God and find meaning in worship. When women speak out, we lead our committees, organizations, and congregations, and make the Jewish world feel more whole. But when we limit, the story of Dinah to 9 words in a book of thousands, we affirm her story's okay to perpetuate. Tanara Burke, the creator of the coinage Me Too, says, "I've been saying from the start, this is not just a moment, it's a movement. A hashtag is a declaration, but now we are poised to really stand up and do the work. So let's work on making all voices heard and work on being active listeners. Let's work on using power responsibly, honoring boundaries, and practicing consent. Let's work on believing stories of sexual abuse that come out into the public. Let abusers see their power go away when the public takes a stand. Don't patronize their businesses, don't defend them, and definitely don't vote for them. Let us instead continue to vote for policies that support women. Equal pay, family leave, choices in regard to one's own body. Let's work on breaking down oppressive political systems that have left women without choice. And let victims and survivors speak out and receive support. Our own congregant, Emily Abrams, is the director of the San Mateo County Rape Trauma Services. This organization is the primary provider of sexual abuse and assault services on the Peninsula. And for many, it's the only place survivors can go for counseling, medical and legal advocacy, and educational resources. Please remember, you are not alone. Let's continue to study women's interpretation of Torah. Let's use our studies to challenge problematic gender notions that still live in our texts. And finally, to my sisters, just be who you are without excuses, without apologies, without fear of being judged or labeled. Just be you. As women, we've been polite for too long. We lived in fear for too long. We've worried about our careers or societal perceptions or safety for too long. This Yom Kippur morning, in a moment, we're going to stand together and recite Al Chet Shechatanu Lefanecha Bechozek Yad, the ways we have wronged you through abuse of power. But we look at our past transgressions as an opportunity to do teshuvah. Today we can recreate the world anew, and it gives us a choice. We can continue to live in the world of Dinah and Tamar, a world of outdated notions of masculine and feminine, of dominance and abuse. Or we can live in a world in which men and women stand side by side on equal footing, in which our choices of what we say and how we act consistently reflect our grandest values and aspirations. A world in which women's voices are heard loudly and affirmed. Now it's our time. Let's speak out.
I used to bite my tongue and hold my breath, scared to rock the boat and make a mess. So I sat quietly, agreed politely. I guess that I forgot I had a choice. I let you push me past the breaking point. I stood for nothing, so I fell for everything. You held me down, but I got up and already brushing off the dust. You hear my voice, you hear that sound, like thunder gonna shake the ground. You held me down, but I got up. Get ready, 'cause I've had enough. I see it all, I see it now. I got the eye of the tiger, a fighter, dancing through the fire. 'Cause I am a champion, and you're gonna hear me roar from zero to my own hero. You held me down, but I got up and already brushing off the dust. You hear my voice, you hear that sound, like thunder gonna shake the ground. You held me down, but I got up. Get ready, 'cause I've had enough. I see it all, I see